Fox in the basement. Ed is not back yet. It may be a couple of weeks before you see my co-host on this show. The good news is you will see him eventually, according to doctors. He is doing much, much better, and I thank all of you for the prayers and the kind comments in everything on our YouTube page, on our social media. I am passing them along through his wife. I'm sending him screenshots, and I know it helps. Keep it up, guys, and I really, really appreciate it, as I'm sure Ed does. Joining me on this show today will be James Fox of FutureSox. We're going to talk a little bit about spring training, and he's going to give me a break because I've been by myself for the last couple of episodes. This episode and every episode of Sox in the Basement brought to you by Cork and Carry at the Park at 33rd and Princeton, in the shadow of the ballpark. A season is nearly upon us, and that is where you should be. Pre-game, post-game, in-game even. Amazing specials, incredible award-winning burgers, ballpark favorites at a great price. Great service, too. You get in there, you make your order, they're going to get you the food. They know you're trying to make it to the game, and you're out there, you're over there, and you're able to see the first pitch and beyond. It's a great way to start off your day, your evening at the ballpark. See everything they have going on and everything they offer at corkandcarry.com. James Fox on the line from FutureSox. How are you, buddy?
Good, man. How's it going?
Yeah, it's been a week.
Yeah, it's been crazy for you guys.
It's been a week. I mean, like I was just telling you a little bit more detail than I want to give out up to this point, because I feel like some of this stuff, like Ed should be telling people and deciding what he wants to do. But he was pretty touch and go. And when you get things like the doctors think it's miraculous he's getting through this, or that he's going to survive, that's some pretty heavy stuff. And the thing was, it happened on a day when, and I was just telling you this, it happened on a day when myself and a bunch of other people who started off in media and radio were getting together for like a bar crawl in Crystal Lake. Like a couple of the guys live up there, and we decided we were all going to go up there and just bounce around town. And Ed was supposed to go. And that morning we start finding out he's in the hospital. And really, it's this big giant text strand. And everybody's like telling him, like, you know, making fun of him essentially for being in there. Like everybody's giving, like, I couldn't find a beer at Ogilvy Transportation Center to get on the next thing. They had it all closed up on Saturday while I was going up. I took the train all the way from the south side and transferred downtown and went up. And I listed the problems that day as me unable to get a tall one above Ed being in the hospital. Like everybody just kind of figured this was just like a minor thing, and then it got really major. And I'm just glad he's going to be back eventually, you know?
Yeah, it's good to hear. I know. So it's just like it escalates like so quickly. And it's like, yeah, I've been there though, when it's like, you know, you're like joking about something and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I feel terrible.
Yeah, I think we started the bar call making fun of the fact he wasn't there, and by the end of the bar call, we're all hugging each other and hoping that he's going to make it through the night. So it was an interesting evening that evening, and I'm glad to report that he's going to be okay. And again, thanks everybody who's been reaching out. We've gotten an awful lot of people who have sent messages to me directly or have reached out through social media. So I want to talk spring training because I know this is like your favorite subject.
Yeah, I know. Fake baseball that doesn't count. It's like one of my favorite things in the world.
I mean, I said on the last show that I do like the fact that they get off to a hot start. I do think you can build some momentum, at least with guys feeling confident. You got a lot of young players on this team. I think it's better for them to have an over 500 record in spring training than have a 300 or 400 record in spring training, because it might hurt the confidence a little bit of some of these guys. So that's the only thing I see. But you can't really dwell on stats. You can't really dwell on who's getting starts early on. I mean, if you're starting right out of the gate as a pitcher on a spring training team, it might not be because you have a job. It might be because they want to give you as many opportunities as possible to earn a job. And you look at the Sox right out the bat with all of these different names trying to get into the rotation. I find it really interesting. I'm convinced that a guy like Sean Burke or a guy like Jonathan Cannon, they got to do their best to make this team. Meanwhile, I'll see other people with lists that have Burke as like the third starter on the team. Where do you see those guys, and where do you see the rotation battle right now?
So it's actually I think it's one of the funnier storylines of the spring. Me and Ian have talked about this on our show, especially after the Fetty edition. Like, I've had like a weird fascination with the Sean Newcomb signing, because I feel like it's a great signing if he's a reliever. But like, there was like so much pushback on social media, even from like some people who cover the White Sox regularly. You know, anytime I just like assumed he was in the bullpen, it was like, of, like an internet full of Sean Newcomb publicists that were like, well, I mean, they promised him he'd get a chance to start. And like, look, when I hear that, I'm like, okay, yeah, fine. Like, you're going to start in spring training, blah, blah, blah. And then there's going to be 5 people better than you. And then you're going to go into the bullpen. And I fully expect that, like, that's what's going to happen ultimately. But the fact that they say that they have like 10 people vying for these jobs and 4 of them are like already solidified, right? Like, you're going to have Shane Smith, you're going to have Davis Martin, you're going to have Anthony Kay, who they signed this offseason. And like Eric Fetty's like only $1.5 million, but like the team's owned by Jerry Reinsdorf. Like, he has guaranteed money. He's in the rotation. So you have 4 spots locked up already. So yeah, you're right. It does come down to Sean Burke and Jonathan Cannon. And my guess is that's Sean Burke's spot and Jonathan Cannon's probably in Charlotte, which means everybody else is either in the bullpen or in AAA. So yeah, I don't really see the rotation battle that they've kind of said that they're having. I think it's just like one of those things that they just like kind of say, but they already kind of like have their roster penciled in right now.
Is there anybody else though that can get that other spot? I mean, you say Burke, and I sit there and I say, well, what about Tanner McDougal? He looked sharp, at least so far, in his appearances out there. You have told me this is a guy who could eventually end up in your rotation and be somebody that moves up higher up in the rotation than towards the bottom of the rotation. I mean, Duncan Davitt was brought in. David Sandlin's an interesting addition onto this team. There's a few starting pitchers that I would like to see get an opportunity. If one of them gets hot, does Sean Burke necessarily get the spot because he got the spot last year? Remember, he and Cannon both went down before the season ended because they weren't doing that well.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I mean, like, look, I think there's one spot. I think the spot is probably Burke's spot. But yeah, like if somebody were to take it from him, he has options, right? It'll be somebody with options. Like, I don't think it's going to be Chris Murphy. I think he's more likely to be in your bullpen. I don't think it's going to be Sean Newcomb. I don't think it's going to be Mike Vassell.
See, that was my pick. You're taking my pick from me. I thought Vassell was going to make the rotation. That was my dark horse pick a couple of weeks ago.
Well, so, look, I guess it's possible. It just means that Cannon and Burke are both in Charlotte then. And I just don't really, if you want to, we could spend a whole episode on the Charlotte and Birmingham rotations because they have tons of guys, right? They have this David Sandlin who pitched today a little bit, who's, because we have Elijah at FutureSox in Arizona and talking about David Sandlin hitting 99 consistently. Like, so they do have like a bunch of arms. It just, to me, seems like they want it to be Burke. But I would say, like, yeah, I think there's one rotation spot open. There's not 2, because the other guys are pretty much in, I feel like, at this point.
All right, so take all those names that you've mentioned. Take Drew Thorpe, Noah Schultz, Hagen Smith, again, McDougal's in there. Take all those names and then tell me who you think is going to halfway through the year move into one of those rotation spots. Because it feels to me, just like you're saying, it seems like it's Sean Burke's to lose. It also feels like they're trying to telegraph to all of us as fans, some of these other names are going to be here, and that rotation is going to look a lot different in the second half. Is that true, or do you think that these 5 guys are your rotation guys for the year?
No, I think Noah Schultz, Hagen Smith, Tanner McDougal all debut at some point. I think they're in the rotation, like at a minimum, like they debut late, like out of the bullpen. But the problem there is you want all of these guys to throw over 100 innings, right? And I just don't think, I think we might have talked about this with Hagen before. So Noah Schultz has some stuff that he still needs to work on because he was hurt last year. I think they'd like him to go to Charlotte and get probably 10 starts or so, you would think, to like feel better. But Hagen Smith, to me, like if Hagen Smith is awesome, like if Hagen Smith looks like he looked in the Arizona Fall League, and then, like there's just no reason for him to stay in the minor leagues at this point. Like Hagen Smith is like, he was supposed to be like up in the big leagues like really soon and struggled, right? So there's just absolutely no reason for you to slow play him. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see Hagen and Tanner first, but I do think we're going to see all 3 of them at some point. Do
any of them have a chance of just shocking in spring training and breaking with the team, or is that too crazy?
Yeah, I don't really think that I'd be really surprised if one of them broke. I don't know if it's just like a service time thing, but it just seems like they want to send all the prospects down to start. And whether that's like, and one of the things me and Ian were discussing is like, does it matter if it's Birmingham or if it's Charlotte, right? Like, I don't know that it does. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Hagen and Tanner are in Birmingham and the other guys are in Charlotte. And if one of them's great in Birmingham, you just bring them up straight from there. So, yeah, I don't really think any of the prospect arms are going to make the team. I do think, like, you could have, like, in theory, you could have somebody in the bullpen, right? But it just depends. Like, if you want to develop David Sandlin as a starter, well, then they're probably not going to have him in the big league bullpen, even if he could help in the big league bullpen. So that's where I do think I think they've kind of insulated themselves where, you know, they think they have these 4 veteran-ish arms at the top of their rotation, and then they're going to play with those other spots. Like, whether that means you like move Anthony Kay at some point, right? Or Eric Fetty's not very good and you just cut him and you go to one of these other guys. I do think like the rotation's not terrible, but the future of it will be in AA and AAA. And I do think we see like the majority of those guys, like as the season moves along. I think prospect debuts will be a big part of this season, even though, you know, I think the focus for a lot of people is like your young big leaguers, right? Like how does this team win 75 games? It's probably because of Teal and Caro and Montgomery and those guys. But I do think a huge factor will be like some of their top prospects that they bring up ultimately, like as the season moves forward.
We're talking with James Fox of FutureSox, filling in for my co-host Ed Siebert while he is on the mend. For exterior window doors, patio doors, and storm doors, look no further than Window and Door Superstore of Oak Forest. No high-pressure sales are not in your kitchen or in your living room. You're in their showroom seeing everything in full color right there. All the doorknobs, all the add-ons, everything. It's not in a book. It's right there. And they have an owner right there as well, in-store and one on site during the install where they use all of their own workers. They do not farm out the work. They've been doing it that way in Oak Forest since 1985 with all major brands custom made and no stock items for a perfect fit. For windows that I believe in, I trust, because I'll be honest with you, they've taken care of me at my last house. You want to go to Window and Door Superstore of Oak Forest, half block east of 159th and Ridgeland at 6280 159th Street. See more at windowdooroakforest.com. I want to talk about Murakami because I've seen some interesting comments lately that it was like I said, why haven't I thought of this? Why haven't I asked this question? He played third base in Japan. He's automatically a first baseman here. Miguel Vargas can also play first base. Why do you think that they're like he's automatically the first baseman and Vargas is the third baseman? Is that the best defensive setup? It's something that's the one thing I'm always weak at. Is defensive metrics. So I figured I'd ask you, like, is that the best setup? Is that why they're going in that direction? Or do you think there was like a promise made to Miguel Vargas, like if you're going to play, you're going to be the third baseman, so we're going to sign a first baseman?
No, my guess is they just think he's probably better defensively at first, and they just like want him focused on offense instead of worrying about playing like a major league average third base. Like I think they probably think like, okay, like what we basically just want this guy to like come in and mash. So then just go stand at first base. Like they probably think it could be average to above average at first, where it's probably below average at third. Like Vargas is okay at third, right? You got a whole system full of middle infielders with another, you know, big one coming in July that, you know, could ultimately move Montgomery to third. So I feel like they're probably just like, you know, like just let Murakami have first, and like that can be his position. I don't know how good he is at third. I think he was playing third base like because he's playing it in the WBC. I'm not sure how many grounders he would have taken there, like if he weren't playing in the World Baseball Classic.
All right, that makes a lot more sense to me. Brooks Baldwin is listed right now officially as the center fielder on the White Sox depth chart, but it doesn't seem to me like he's actually the center fielder on this team. It seems to me like they have an awful lot of guys. Interesting names from Luis Angel Acuna or Luis Angel Acuna, Pereira. You've got Jared Kelenics out there. There's a lot of outfielders. There's a lot of guys that they brought in to kind of compete out there in the outfield. I see Baldwin as a guy that's going to sub in the infield and in the outfield, and I think they're going to pick themselves a center fielder out of the rest of the bunch. What do you see happening in that outfield?
Yeah, I think Acuna is the center fielder. Personally, I mean, I just think they acquired him to play that spot, regardless of what they've said. So I do remember, like, when he was traded from Texas to the Mets, he did have, like, a lot of utility. Like, I remember at that time it was like, oh, he's shortstop or center. And then when he got to the Mets, it was like, well, their team's good. Like, he's kind of a utility guy. I don't think we did a great job, like, on White Sox Twitter or, like, in this space, right? Like, the podcast space about, like, really tough. Because I think it was just, he was kind of disregarded. It was like, oh, they dumped Robert for nothing. When, like, I don't really think that's true. You know, I mean, Acuna was a prospect, like a real prospect. And then, yeah, struggled, like, in a weird situation. And I don't think he's great by any means. But, like, if this guy puts up, like, a 90 or 95 WRC plus somehow, like, you're talking about, like, a 2 to 2.5 win player because of base running and defense. Like, he's just, there's, like, a lot of things that he's capable of doing to the point where, like, if he hits it all, like, he's going to be pretty decent. And I think they're going to give him every opportunity to do that. Like, in center field, I do think center field is probably Baldwin's best spot outside of the infield. I don't love the idea of Baldwin in a corner, but I don't know if you guys talked about this on your show. Like, Brooks Baldwin was, like, really good in the second half offensively, right? So, like, he's on the team for sure. I do agree with you that he's, like, probably a super sub. Like, you'll probably try to get him in the lineup against righties, whereas, like, you'd probably like to play Pereira against lefties, but Pereira has to, like, actually get in camp and start playing. He has, like, a rib or side issue that he's, like, missed time with, and he's out of options. So I do think, you know, he's got the inside track at a roster spot because they traded for him and they clearly like him. And he's another one of these post-hype guys like Vargas was. I mean, he probably has to play eventually. So I do think those guys, I think that's your outfield mix, like, along with Benintendi. And then, you know, we can get into the bench a little bit further if you want. There's probably, like, another guy out there with a spot, you know.
I was going to ask you about what you thought about the bench. So let's say Acuna's in center field, and I just look at the Fangraphs projection. They think they're going to take 3 catchers. So Corey Lee would be on the bench because the Fangraphs projects both the catchers, and Teal and Caro would be in the lineup more often than not. So they got him taking 3 catchers. They got Lenny Sosa, and then you would say Brooks Baldwin's on the bench, and then you'd have Pereira. And to me, I keep hearing Kalenic's a dark horse. Scott Merkin was just saying that. I mean, Tristan Peters has already gone yard. I mean, that's a guy who was on the cusp of making it into the major leagues. I'm trying to figure out, one, what's Lenny Sosa's role if he's not really good defensively, and he seems to only perform when he has consistent at bats, not when you're moving him all over the place. He seems to dip when you do that. And also, who could get kicked out of that group and moved in, because otherwise it's all set. Like, we're sitting here talking and it sounds like all that competition I thought was going to happen isn't really actually going to happen.
Yeah, it's a lot of out of options, guys. I think it was interesting. Will Venable, like, the last couple of days, talked about how Sosa is going to have to play some third base. I think if they could do that, you can find a way to get him in the lineup more. The catcher thing is weird to me, man. Like, I still don't think they keep Corey Lee. I think Corey Lee gets traded for something, because I don't know how you keep 3 of them. I don't think I think as fans, right, and you and I, like, I would like to see Caro and Teal in the lineup together as much as possible, but it just doesn't seem like that's a huge priority for them, especially when you have, like, a guy like Andrew Benintendi who's going to have to DH quite a bit. You have Lenny Sosa on your team most likely because he's also out of options.
Well, that's
right?
why it seems like Lee or Sosa are going to get traded. Like, those are the 2 guys that, to me, I think it's not only Lee, but it's also Sosa. Somebody's got to go.
See, I don't think you can have both of them on the team.
Right.
I think one of them makes it because, you know, they do have, like, some catching depth in Charlotte that's, like, optionable. Like, you have guys that, you know, that can play in Charlotte that, you know, can be your third catcher, not on the roster. And you would think, like, somebody would want Corey Lee. I mean, Corey Lee's pretty decent. He just doesn't really have a spot here, right? So I think if it's Sosa, Baldwin, Pereira, then that leaves, like, kind of one spot for you to play with. Derek Hill can kind of be sent down because it's like a split contract, but it's expensive, so I don't know that anybody would claim him. Tristan Peters can be sent down too, so he's probably in Charlotte, like, as depth, I would imagine. Curtis Mead, another guy that's, like, out of options, hasn't really shown a ton, but, I mean, they did trade for him, right? So I think that guy probably doesn't make it, but, I mean, he could theoretically. So, yeah, I mean, you do have, like, a logjam here. The other thing with Jared Kelenic, doesn't look very good to me, and he's on a minors deal. So, I mean, like, unless Jared Kelenic looks like the old guy and is like tearing the cover off the ball, my guess is they just send him to Charlotte and then let him do damage there and then hope like you bring him up later. I don't really see him as like an option to make the team. So, but I think you've highlighted the right guys. I don't really envision a roster that has Sosa and Lee on it because it's just not versatile enough. And both of those guys like are out of options. Then you're talking about like, if you need to call up somebody, you're sending down a Brooks Baldwin potentially, right? Because Pereira's out of options too. You can't have Baldwin as your only bench guy that can't be optioned to Charlotte.
It's so interesting because I'm afraid to ask you this final question because because I feel like it's just this overwhelming question. How would you know? But since you are over at FutureSox and since you understand the minor league system probably better than anybody else I'm going to bring on to this show, I kind of have to ask it. Who's going to be here later this year? And I think the answer, when you give it to me, there's going to be a list of them. And I think that list is going, when you think about it, that means somebody else is going to be gone. Sure, somebody might come up because of an injury, but you've got so many guys, first of all, pitchers, everybody from Drew Thorpe to the three big prospects in McDougal and Schultz and Hagen Smith. All four of those pitchers are going to be challenging to get into this rotation. And then you've got a list of players that like even Montgomery in the outfield might be headed up here. And you've got some of the names that we've just talked about that might start down in the minors and come up. Who do you expect to see this year make it to this team who's actually not just somebody who comes up as a fill-in, but somebody who's going to get to this team this year, and then you think they're really part of this team moving forward after that? Because I think this roster is so different when it breaks camp than maybe halfway through the year.
Yeah, definitely. So the two guys obviously on the position player side, Braden Montgomery will be the right fielder at some point. I think they might still slow play him a little bit. I think it'll be telling. If he goes to Charlotte, Chris, it's going to be like, okay, like we're going to see him sooner than we think, right? But if he goes to Birmingham, they might slow play it a little bit and make him earn it. And then it's like June, right? And he takes over in right field. But he's definitely like going to finish the year, I think. And I think he joins that core, right, of Teal and Caro and Colson and these guys. And then the other one's Sam Antonacci. It's like super interesting, right? Like, I mean, we've kind of talked about him a ton on our show because he's another one of these like Mydrothy type guys, but he hits left-handed. But I mean, he hit a ball like 110, and that homer that he hit was, you know, that's like a little bit more power than they're expecting. I just kind of think like if that kid goes to Charlotte, right, where everybody hit. Jacob Amaya, remember him?
Yeah.
Jacob Amaya hit 10 homers in Charlotte last year. Like, that place is nuts. Like, you and I could probably homer there. Like, if Antonacci goes there, then he's got like 12 homers, right? And he's like, does all the other my drop stuff. That's a guy that factors in somewhere.
Yeah, but that's the interesting thing. If I had to ask you, James, if I had to ask you, Braden Montgomery comes up, who's in danger of losing their job when he comes up? Who would you say?
Probably the DH at bats, because it's probably been intended.
So then if Antonacci comes up, what is it? Is it if Vargas isn't doing any more than just replacement level? Is it Mydroth? Like, that's the thing. Like, we have all these interesting names right now that we're all watching, but somebody's got to go.
Right. Yeah, I think so. The whole Chase Mydroth thing is interesting to me because everybody like lumps him in with the core. And I get it, right? Because guys like that, I often say this on our show, right? Chase Mydroth is like our dad's favorite player. But like when you look at his stats, I know you're a fantasy guy. Like he wasn't that good last year.
No,
like he just wasn't. And like I think we all kind of like him, but he has to be a lot better, or else like somebody's going to. And that doesn't mean that he can't be like on the team, right? But like I'm not willing to say Chase Mydroth's like their second baseman for the next 5 years. Like they got a ton of middle infielders in the system. So yeah, like those two guys on the position player side. And then we talked about the pitchers, right? Like the prospect pitchers who are going to hopefully lead you into the future. Noah Schultz, Hagen Smith, Tanner McDougal, we could see them whenever. But like they have David Sandlin, who they acquired from Boston, who's like close. Duncan Davitt is like a back end starter type. And then you kind of mentioned it. I wasn't even going to talk about these guys. Like Drew Thorpe right now is having some issues, it seems, on his way back from Tommy John. But Drew Thorpe, Ty Bush, Mason Adams, like these guys are all probably mid to back end starters that are dealing with like injury rehabs, but like they could all be part of the team this summer. So yeah, you're right. Like I think it's a lot of moving parts. It'll be true competition to an extent, right? But your guys like Anthony Kay and some of those established guys with contracts, it's not that easy. I mean, it might be as simple as the Sox are better, but they're still making deadline trades to sell to then bring up prospects who you think are going to be on your team the next 3 years.
Amazing stuff from James Fox. I mean, and seriously, I sit there and I think about all the moving parts. I mean, you go through all those pitchers that are all challenging to get in here, and I think to myself, well, Shane Smith's the only one that I'm sure will make it through the year unless he falls on his face. Like, he's the guy that I'm like, he's really good, but the other 4 guys could all be gone by the end of the year in that rotation.
But, I mean, you're telling me that if Shane Smith is really good again and, like, you're getting offered 4 young players for him, you wouldn't consider it if you believe in your other guy. That's what I mean. Like, I don't even know that he's a lock to stay.
Interesting.
Because you, and like, okay, like, I think it's safe, right? Like, Shane Smith is good enough to stay, right? Like, he could be in your rotation. But I mean, 5 years of control on Shane Smith, like, if you're below 500 and you want to get these other guys in the rotation and team calls on Shane Smith or Davis Martin, like, I don't think Chris Getz is opposed to trading anybody, as we've seen. Like, he's not married to anyone, which is like one of the big differences between him and the previous front office.
No, I like my general managers cutthroat. I like them making decisions with ice in their veins and no care for anybody except just trying to get better. And that's why I think they're going to be a much better team this year. And I got them at around 75 wins. And because I think we're going to get some good play out of this team. And they're not going to, I had somebody write me a message the other day, James. They're like, why are you guys not talking about the fact that if they go 500, they might get that last playoff spot? And I was like, let's just get through May. And
yeah, let's finish ahead of the Twins.
Let's try not to be in last place. That's my goal. James Fox of Future Sox. Check him out all across the social media and of course the Future Sox podcast. Thanks so much, my friend.
Thanks for having me, Chris.
That music means the Sox nerd Dave Marin is on the line with all those trivia nuggets and tidbits that he puts up on the scoreboard at the rate for each and every home game. And then he comes on Sox in the Basement every week to share even more with you, brought to you by the Village of Lamont. Want to experience a downtown with real history, great eats and drinks, and green spaces filled with adventure? Visit the Village of Lamont. Shop, dine, drink, explore, and understand that their biggest party of the year, their St. Patrick's Day parade, and the entire downtown area just becomes incredibly fun. That day is coming up on March the 7th. If you look closely, you'll find me somewhere in the crowd. See it all at LamontDowntown.com. Nerd, what do you got for me?
How about a few nuggets on some who figure to be key players for the 2026 White Sox? For good measure, I added opening day morsels because, let's face it, that day can't come soon enough. Let's start with the manager, Will Venable, who guided the Sox to a 60-102 mark in his rookie campaign as a skipper. The last manager to post a winning record in his second season on the White Sox bench was Ozzie Guillen, who led the good guys to 99 wins in 2005. While repeating Ozzie's second season is a pipe dream, how about Jeff Torborg's second season? In 1990, Torborg's young Sox improved their win total by 25. If that happens, the 2026 Sox would post 85 victories, and I think we'd all take that. Venable won his first opener in his managerial debut for the Sox last year. Should he win again this year, he will be the first Sox skipper to win his first 2 openers since Jerry Manuel did it in 1988 and 1999. Moving on to Colson Montgomery. It will take only 7 homers for Montgomery to become the White Sox all-time leader among left-handed hitting shortstops. He is taking aim at Guillen, who sits atop this list of 10 at 24. Prior to Montgomery, the last left-handed hitting shortstop to homer for the Sox was Braden Shoemake in 2024. As for opening day, Monty is on track to be the first left-handed hitter to start at shortstop in Game 1 for the Sox since Mike Caruso in 1999. How about Andrew Benintendi? Benny had a monster season hitting 5th in 2025. His .382 average in that spot was the highest ever by a Sox lefty and 6th highest overall. In addition, that output was tops in the majors for players with at least 45 at-bats hitting 5th. By the way, Benintendi has never batted 5th in any of his 9 opening day games. Moving on to Munetaka Murakami, The White Sox rookie home run record is 36, set by Jose Abreu in 2014. In his rookie season of 2019 in Japan's major leagues, Murakami hit, 36 home runs. A homer on opening day will make Murakami the first Sox player to do that while making a big league debut. Sir Anthony Dominguez is in camp as the Sox presumptive closer. The Sox haven't had a solid closer since Liam Hendricks, a long 4 seasons ago. That year, 2022, Hendricks logged 37 saves, which was the last time the Sox had a pitcher reach double digits in saves. This is the first time in the save era the Sox have not had a pitcher with at least 10 saves in 3 straight seasons. Should Sir Anthony notch a save on opening day, he will be the first to do that in his debut with the Sox since Bob James finished off the Brewers in the 1985 curtain raiser. And one more. You brought up Jared Kelenic on the last show. I am pulling for him because he is a native of Wisconsin, my state of residence, since I moved here from Illinois in 1987. Speaking of cheeseheads, if Kelenic makes the team and homers on opening day, he will be the first Wisconsin native to do that for the Sox since Milwaukee's Al Simmons in 1933. The last cheesehead to bat and homer for the White Sox was Madison's Rick Reichart in 1973. Before I get to my zinger, let me remind you that gems like these and others are available on my blog, which you can access at soxinthebasement.com. I am also posting daily on X and Threads. My zinger, I too am reveling in the Sox spring success, as you touched on, Chris, in the last episode of Sox in the Basement. These Sox started Cactus League play 4-1, which was their best start in Arizona since the 2022 team won 5 of their first 6 exhibitions. The Sox leading hitter that spring was Micker Adolfo, who posted a .435 average. That's it, Chris. Probably more than you wanted to know about managerial wins, Mike Caruso, and the Dairy State. And get well soon, Ed. We're all pulling for you.
Sox in the basement. Sox in the basement. Sox in the basement.
Sox in the Basement. Heard everywhere podcasts can be found, and always on soxinthebasement.com.